And what we're doing is building a decentralized and peer-to-peer scholarship platform. If they can accept crypto, great. 99.9% of them won't. So we do give them fiat in that way. We can't take down the government, but we've done everything within their purview that we can right now. It's not timing, it's just the energy and the people. We're the builders, we're the doers, and it's on our shoulders. I think more than anything, it's almost taking the responsibility and saying, hey, if our project fails, it's on me. It's not on anyone else. It's not a ton of effort on my side. So maybe I should put
there
my
you
money
go.
where
Now
my
time
mouth
to
is.
sign up for the pen pal list.
Some others.
Welcome to Amigos PC. If you were looking for a podcast with high standards and an appreciation for the finer things in life, like water polo, ballet, equestrian riding, cricket, and trips to the countryside, you're in the wrong place. If you're looking for a podcast that celebrates drinking, random thoughts, wacky conspiracies, memes, crypto, cinema, and a lot of other things that don't really make any sense, then you're in the right place. This is Amigos PC, and here are your hosts, Scott and Mark.
Hey, you! Yeah, you! You're hearing this for a reason. You haven't subscribed to the Amigos membership on Super Cash yet. For as little as $5, you can get access to our feed with no ads, and exclusive membership discounts and merch.
Jump up to our $30 tier and get everything plus direct access to us via our Discord channel, live Amigo AMAs, quarterly giveaways, and crypto merch. For $1 a day or less, you can support an Amigo out.
This episode is brought to you by Coastal Crypto Mining. Coastal Crypto Mining provides ASIC crypto mining machines, hosting for those that are at capacity and need space to space their machines. Go to coastalcryptomining.com for all inquiries of mining equipment. Definitely got to get better than that. Today's guest is Ted from Zipoy, or Tedz.JPG from Scholar.io, one of the co-founders. Ted, thank you for coming on. If you could just give us a little bit of insight on you, and then I'd like to really dive into this project that you brought over.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to our conversation today. My name is Ted. My background is actually in industrial engineering. That's what I went to school for, but I've been in the Web3 and crypto space since around 2012, 2013, way back in 8th grade for me. So been in the space, saw the highs, the lows. Unfortunately, did not hold my bags because I would not be here today, but it's been a really fun time nonetheless. So I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at a startup called Scholar.io, and what we're doing is building a decentralized and peer-to-peer scholarship platform that leverages the power of DeFi and Web3 tooling. So really exciting project, some crypto with a purpose and something that stands out amongst the rest in the crypto space right now.
So, and just to give a little bit of clarity on the name, right? So it's Scholar, but there's a 0 in there where the O should be .io. And could you give us a little background as to why you chose to put the 0 in the name?
Yeah, great question, and we get that a lot. So the 0 is representing our goal, and that's to reduce student debt to 0 and make it a more fair and equitable opportunity, especially here in the United States. I think we all understand how messed up our student financing is. So that's the name. It's also been a blessing for us from finding our domain names and registry stuff. So it's kind of a multifaceted, but the name is mostly the mission. So
I love that.
That's cool.
So this is a DeFi project, you said. This literally is a... I know off air you said you don't really want to call it like a cryptocurrency, and I don't like using projects like this, or using that word to define projects like this either. These literally are projects, right? And most cryptos or tokens or things like that, you're investing almost like a miner, or not a miner, but like the small guy angel investing into a project when they start to acquire like your token, for example, or any other token in these projects. So how does this, as a DeFi project, correlate to the real world with the student loan debt that's out there?
It's a great question. So I think the best place to start is giving a little bit of context or background of what student financing and charitable giving look like today. So in the US right now, I believe the number sits around $1.7 trillion of total student debt, and that actually grows at 6 times the rate of our US economy. So a growing problem that impacts around 43 million Americans. And what it actually results in is people choosing to delay starting a family, or buying a house, etc., because they want to take care of this financial obligation. While we're not solving student debt right out of the box, which I would love to say that we are, we're actually focusing in on a particular niche being scholarships and charitable giving. So if you look at a traditional 4-year university, or basically any academic institution in the US right now, their money is run by something called an endowment. So when you make a donation to the university, the endowment manages your money. If we double click on that, we realize a few things. One, when you make that donation, obviously the incentive is you get a tax break, but then that's kind of it. They shake your hand, say thank you for your donation, and away you go. When we look at giving as a whole, the motivation is not actually to receive the tax break for most people, it's to make an impact, it's to change lives. And so that very simple transaction is not very fulfilling for people. And then on the other side of that, when you make a donation, say I made $100,000 to my alma mater, North Dakota State University, it's actually up to them how they spend it. While I wish that I want to support, my fellow kind of women in STEM, or maybe it's black engineers, a cause I care about, they could go and spend that money on a sports complex, bonuses, however they really please. And so what we want to do is give that power back to the donor to choose the students and causes they care about most. And then the second factor is actually the performance of these endowments. If you look at a 5-year track record, the performance on them sits around 5.2%. So when you make a donation, they invest in the markets, earn that 5%, but they actually tend to take around a 4% fee on top. So the delta, your donation is actually growing at 1 to 2% each year. And obviously folks in the DeFi space that know that's pretty abysmal rates. And we believe we can do much better by connecting these donors and their funds to things like stablecoin yield farming, and basically as degen as they want to get will help them get that way.
Now, you said that this project is DeFi, and it's kind of just reiterating that again. Student loan business is literally big business when it comes to education, the government involved. So how are you going to be able to take that aspect, this peer-to-peer network, which is DeFi, and compete against big business?
No, it's a great question. And so first and foremost, the history of our project, we have an existing Web 2.0 platform called Scholarful. What this is essentially a dating app for scholarships. You fill out your profile, kind of put your credentials in there, and then you're actually recommended scholarships that fit who you are, and you can apply to them in one click. So instead of spending the 35 to 40 minutes each time applying to a scholarship, it comes down to one button. We have around 30,000 students on that platform, have given away millions of dollars in scholarships that come from both our internal endowment and external, but kind of make that process very simple for students. So the student side is very simple. Students need money, we give them an easy way to get to it. Where we're actually way more competitive comes back down to the donor control. Again, donors don't necessarily just want the tax break, they want to feel connected and close to students. This way they actually get a short list of students in our ecosystem that fit the exact criteria they're looking for, whether that be they attend a 4-year university, a 2-year university, or a tech school, or we're even opening it up to kind of what we'll call Web3 education, certification programs, programming courses, etc. So they can actually tailor their cause much better. And of course the performance comes down, your money's not going to die in an endowment to inflation, it's actually going to go much further using the power of DeFi. So the performance and control is our exact incentive for donors on that piece, and knowing that it's all on chain, that your money's actually going to the causes that you've laid out instead of going to a basketball court or a salary.
So are you then donating this token that you guys have created?
Great question. So the process is actually fairly simple. So as a donor, you would make a donation to, we have a 501c3. We issue a tax break for that. You relinquish control of it. But we actually create what's called the donor advised fund. Donor advised funds are actually really unique legal vehicle because you can choose how that money is grown. So you actually choose the yield protocol that we have a connection to, whether that be Pangolin, Anchor Protocol, a lot of these different, kind of yield farming services, and we actually scale that using stable coins. So where our token comes into play actually comes on the fees. So say that you make this $100,000 donation, it earns 15% on something like Anchor Protocol, we take a small percentage of that yield and use it to fuel our protocol. So that one means covering, kind of the fees that we incur, but the other thing is that we distribute it to our token holders via token buybacks. So by holding Scholar, SCLR token, you actually receive part of the fees that we earn through our donor advised fund infrastructure. So that's the very basic, kind of rewarding governance through those token buybacks. There's much more coming down the road as far as utility of the token. Something we're really excited about is called stake for service. Best way to think about this, we coin it the paywall that pays you. So instead of subscribing to Hulu or Netflix or getting this content for $20 a month, you would stake the equivalent amount of our token, and that gives you access to particularly attractive to students, things like tutoring, exclusive academic content and deals, and other things in that ecosystem. There's more to come for, the traditional holder as far as what stake for service means, but what it does is by locking it up, puts in, lowers our circulating supply and puts a buy pressure in, so inherently the token value goes up a bit.
Okay. So, go ahead, Scott.
I was gonna say, so what made you, get involved in this project as far as helping out school, students and stuff? Was it something that you kind of like when you're going through school, you're like, I wish there was something like this, or how'd it come to be when you jumped on board in this project?
No, it's a good question. So before jumping out of the project, I was actually working at a company called Boston Scientific. It's a medical device manufacturing company, does things like implants for your heart, brain, etc., running an innovation incubator. And, the grind of the 9 to 5 was getting to me, and I just being a recent college graduate in 2018, I was like, this can't be it. This can't be the end game. So the jump was multifold. One, looking for a kind of a career opportunity to lead a project that's meaningful, and two, being a recent college graduate and thankfully just recently paid off my debt, I know how big of a burden that can be for people that, especially, the space is very predatory. You think about the size of the loan that they're giving to an 18-year-old that might not have the education that they really should to take on that money. So the predatory nature, the fact that it impacts so many Americans and even more across the globe, is kind of what brought me in. I've been in the crypto space for a long time, and this is one of those rare projects that has the ethos I can back and something that I'm happy to be a part of. There's lots of opportunities to make money and get rich in crypto, and this was one thing that had, kind of the ethos and mission that I could stand behind.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so, with crypto and things like that, I'm kind of like scanning through the project at this point. So for like the layman people, similar to like me, Scott, this is not something that you could just mine, right? You can't just mine this project. You have to actually either swap into it or find some type of liquidity to push into it, correct?
Yep, so that's right now. That being said, we're actually, this is probably another topic to dive into later, but evaluating, hosting our own subnet on Avalanche. I think subnets are a super powerful thing that's coming off the protocol. So at some point we might have the mining or kind of validator rewards coming, but not right now. You would have to, swap into it.
Okay. And you just mentioned you guys are off on the Avalanche chain. So technically this is an ERC20 token, which then correlates also to Ethereum. And there's a lot of drama about Ethereum, especially right now. How are you guys handling, outside projects that could influence your project?
Yeah, I think we're, as a whole, super bullish and confident on Avalanche. We do know it's kind of an EVM-compatible chain, and honestly, a lot of the Ethereum drama, surprisingly, has not dribbled into the Avalanche community a ton. I think they've kind of had a different mission and ethos since the beginning, and that's why we chose them. We're building on their main net, the C chain, but there's these, kind of sub-chains that actually fix a lot of the problems that Ethereum is facing right now. So, if anything, we're on, a little bit exempt from it, but haven't felt a ton of pressure from it just yet. So maybe check in a month and we'll see what happens and how the community reacts, but right now it has not been an issue.
Okay. So this being the DeFi project that we've been kind of talking about, I'm looking at like some of the things that you have going on for your roadmap, right? And I see that there's Q1 of 2020. We've currently done some MVP and initial testing of your marketplace, right? You have an IDO with your partner DEXs. So who are you partnering with decentralized exchanges?
Yeah, so great question. We're actually coming up on confirming who our DEX partner will be. So an IDO initial DEX offering is unique in a few ways and gives us a lot of flexibility. But who we're working with out of the box right now has been Pangolin, Penguin. So those are two separate kind of players in the Avalanche ecosystem. And then continuing talks with a few others. Likely, really interesting discovery has been that the public sale sizing tends to be much smaller than we thought. So we're actually leaning more into kind of our community rewards, etc., to get the kind of tokens into circulation. The other thing is the support. So while IDO is just one step in the process, we're actually partnering with a project called DEXs, and what they do is a central limit order book to kind of facilitate some of that price discovery. So if you look at an IDO for most projects, it kind of has a huge spike in price, and then everybody dumps. Everyone's looking for that, quick 10x. By partnering with DEXs and some of these other projects, we can actually take a lot of that initial volatility out. So we'll see where that launch happens. Stay tuned. Likely it's going to be on Penguin right now, with that price discovery process happening with DEXs in the following couple weeks after that.
Oh, nice. Is that, doing something like that, is that a lot of work? or do you have to,
No, it's just control.
This aspect of it is, complete.
Paste.
Yeah, is it control alt delete and you
paste,
just walk away?
Or,
what kind of goes entail of, getting... I don't want to... Embed's the wrong thing to say, but, teaming up with a DEX, I assume that... Because I see all these other projects, right? SafeMoon was a good example. They've been trying to get on Binance and their BIP20 token, which they have their own drama and everything like that. Just not trying to drop a name or anything like that, but they can't even get on Binance, right? And they're on the chain of Binance. So I'm always curious as to, well, what does it take to actually get on an exchange or a DEX? And a follow-up question to that. Are you guys open to the idea of progressing to a centralized exchange down the road too? Is that on the roadmap, or is that you can't talk about that yet?
Yeah, so it's definitely on the roadmap, and we'll see where things go. The idea is the health of the token. We actually, like I mentioned, the token is a governance token, and some of this will come down to the community leading some of it. But to answer your first question, getting listed on an exchange, depending on it, the centralized exchanges, in my opinion, are much more challenging. They have a much harder, big set of kind of rules and regulations and passes that boxes you need to check to get through. And more than anything, they're looking for volume. So, the amount of trades that have gone on, price stability, etc., that's a really easy way to get listed. Centralized. In a decentralized way, getting listed is actually very simple. It just takes providing liquidity. So you could list on a number of different decentralized exchanges just by taking our token and an equivalent amount of it's essentially providing a pair. So say we wanted to do that with a stable coin, you can essentially influence your price by saying, if I put one Scholar and one USDC, it kind of equates the two. So you can kind of adjust that. So getting listed is actually pretty simple on the truly decentralized exchanges. That being said, getting listed and working through their launch pads are different things. And so what we're doing, most decentralized exchanges have a launch pad, and this is where people can essentially buy your token at the, like an IDO. So you could do it, just kind of pop a liquidity pool onto a decentralized exchange, and you won't get a lot of hype. But if you actually want to go through a launch pad, it's actually not as hard as most people would think. They definitely do have their rigor. You don't want to put a funny coin up there, kind of a shill contract, something like that. So they do an audit to make sure everything's kosher. But the process is pretty well defined, so it's not the Wild West, and it's not about who you know. It's if you can comply to their processes and actually have a decent project, it's not impossible.
Okay. So I know, with a lot of coins that go through the listing process and things like that, and a lot of my experience is on the Binance network when it comes to new coins that are populating and things like that. Are you guys looking into, or is it even necessary for your project to have to go through some type of quality audit or anything like that, similar to Certic or something?
Yep, so we absolutely are, and we've actually taken a pretty different approach to that, and we're doing a lot of these audits along the way. So taking some of these smaller audits on our core contracts so that when we get to the time to pay for something like a fully Certic, audit, those can cost, anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000. So we want to make sure our ducks are in a row before we get there. So we're definitely doing that. We will be fully compliant with everything along those lines, but just making sure that we're doing this at each step of the phase, instead of not waiting and submitting everything at once, because it can really derail projects if you can't pass them right.
Well, and Certic they're already behind on everything that they're doing, which is, that's not a fault of them. They're busy. they're doing a lot of projects. It's great. Business is booming in that neck of the woods. Do you feel that it's necessary to go through these audits to appease your community or for validation, or do you think that you guys are transparent enough? I mean, if you go to the website, like, you guys are fully doxed, you have everything outlined. There's the roadmap, the white paper spells a lot of things out. I'm sure that there's somewhere on the chain you could probably pull the contract and read it. So, do you feel it's necessary?
So, for most projects, they might have a different answer than us, but given the nature of our project, that it is a, crypto for good, that we do have a nonprofit, that there are nonprofit elements, the trust is essential. So we fully feel it's necessary for us. And the other thing is that we're attracting non-crypto folks in this project. As you think about our stake for service model, not everyone has ever, held crypto in something like Robinhood or these very simple things, much less had their own MetaMask wallet, bridge funds. So we're trying to, anything to reassure these new users that this is safe, this is legit, we're all for. I mean, we have a lot of really unique elements that make that onboarding process much simpler than, we think MetaMask, we think these things are super easy, but to the average, consumer, it's not. And so, yeah, anything to kind of help them through that process, make them feel comfortable and confident along the way we're doing, hence our kind of focus on these audits.
Okay.
I was going to say, how are you going to, do you guys have a game plan, or I'm sure maybe it's already in place to, attract the people that, may not be big into the crypto space, right? Those people that want to get involved but never done it, like you're saying.
No, it's a great question, and, we're kind of blazing a path, and there's not a lot of great insight, but the question that we frame is, how do you make crypto not feel like crypto?
Yeah.
Especially for these people that are making donations. Think about the people that are in a financial position to contribute to an endowment, contribute to a university. It's either crypto degens or people that are well established in their career and probably looking closer to retirement. And so the crypto degens are taken care of, but making those other folks feel comfortable. What we've done is actually help them create a wallet along the way. So as they fill out their profile, if they can fill out a Facebook profile, we can actually help them create their Scholar profile as well as a wallet that's very simple to log into and facilitate some of that. The other thing we're doing is trying to avoid any sort of, hey, go to, Trader Joe and pick up some of our token. We actually want to have, using a tool called Ramp and a few others, basically directly buy our token within our one website. So they never have to leave. They can create their wallet in a very simple way. And honestly, that's something we're really excited about for our students too, is that when they create a Scholar profile, all the information that we collect from them to create that, we can actually use to create a wallet for them too. So we're actually bringing a lot of new users into crypto in a very simple way. And so we're really excited about that. And it's actually kind of a unique element of our project is it's an on-ramp for new users that hopefully is not super scary.
Yeah, that's cool.
Honestly, that's key for crypto, right? I mean, the more adaptability, the more acceptability that there is in not just crypto, but like you were saying, Web3 earlier, which encompasses all of this that I just learned from you today. Thank you for that. Yeah, I see that being a huge benefiting factor for the project itself is you're being able to on-ramp people that just they're not in crypto. They're not into this space. They don't, not comfortable, because there are a lot of people that are, we have friends included that are just, I don't know, man, that still seems sketchy. It seems sketchy. And we know from personal experience that there is, sketchy pieces to this puzzle still today, and even from when we started our first, dabble into crypto and things like that. So, like I said, I think that's a great thing the project's actually focusing on. So, with the project itself, I know a lot of projects have hurdles with the community adapting the project or buying into the project, if you want to call it that, with ownership. Like, who's holding the ownership of the contract? How much control do the devs have? Things like that. How is your project going to be handling that? Like, is a majority of this going to still be in control, or is this going to be a true peer-to-peer thing as we get into these deep stages of your project?
No, it's a great question, and the end goal is definitely to have this being fully decentralized and autonomous. I don't know if it's the end goal for all of our founders to be doing this till we die, but so we'd love to have this a community-governed and driven protocol. So, essentially, our staking rewards are tied to governance, and so eventually we'll be phase gating, and majority of the control of the contracts, the governance, all those things will be relinquished to the community. We're going to be, not doing that initially completely out of the box, just in case something crazy happens. But down the road, the end vision is a completely decentralized and autonomous, protocol. So we'll see how we get there and how long that takes. Our, timeline right now is looking around 3 years. But there are things like right out of the box to get people used to governance. That's the one thing that I think we kind of maybe had some oversight on, is that governance, not everyone is super excited to hop on and vote on issues. And so how do you make that engaging and exciting and gamify it so they actually come back and do it? That's half the battle sometimes. So we've got some cool things happening in that space. The other thing is that right away there is utility from a governance standpoint. Part of our protocol is the tokens are allocated to our endowment. And so the community can actually vote on students or causes that they feel most passionate about and actually relinquish those scholarships that way. So it's a kind of a community way to get back, get engaged. Once that is working and people are engaged, then we can start actually having our yield fee questions and our contract questions and that kind of governance starting to be embedded later. But out of the gate, we're trying to keep it simple, keep people do some of those gamification elements to make it regular and exciting.
That's awesome. What I'm just thinking, looking over your white paper, things like that. So a project like this, one's contributing, the other is receiving the donation, and then they're going to be giving that to an education source, university, right? Are you building relationships then with universities, or how does that aspect work with actually, because obviously most universities are on a fiat, crypto isn't on their radar for things like that, or at least from what I had personal experience, just how the environment is now, I guess you could say. How are you guys handling that portion?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so while I don't think we like to position ourselves as a complement, not a competitor to traditional academic endowments, because we do give them an on-ramp into digital assets and DeFi. So we do have some extensive partnerships still being built, but the most important thing is that we actually, when we issue these scholarships, we actually go through their student financial aid office. So it's not like a student's wallet just gets $2,500 of USDC in there and they go party in Cozumel or something. We actually go through their financial aid offices and make that very simple. And the other question you'd ask, since this is a DeFi protocol and universities are in fiat, how does that work? We have a really deep partnership with Circle. They are on and off ramp for fiat, crypto, working on things like ACH transfers, wires, etc. So they're our core partner. We'll meet the universities where they're at. If they can accept crypto, great. 99.9% of them won't. And so we do get them fiat in that way.
Oh, okay. It's little things like that you wouldn't think of, but then you have to think of that, because at first, us initially talking about that, I didn't even correspond on this until I started reading some of the white paper, of your university partners, and I'm like, oh, so you guys are building relationships with them, essentially.
And no, you're good. The university partners are going to be really important for us too to drive adoption, and so we've thought about how do you actually get that market penetration, and it's not going directly to an endowment and saying, hey, we're better, send your donors our way. It's engaging the donors, and more importantly, engaging their financial advisors too, because a lot of this comes around tax season. They're saying, how can I benefit some of this? And so the marketing is really unique on the donor side. So it's catching the alumni, understanding how they operate, and giving them very easy on ramps, whether, like I said, it's PayPal, crypto, fiat, anyway, meeting them where they're at. The student side, honestly, is a little bit simpler. Here's money, come get it. So it's the simple question of, can I have $10 versus here's $10. It's much easier, even as a recent student, to say, hey, the scholarship process is way easier too, is super attractive. So the university partnerships, we'll see how that goes. We do have some deep partnerships with obviously our alma maters, etc. But I'm curious to see how that goes as our project matures, if that becomes adversarial or it's still complementary. So.
Now, I know that some scholarships out there in the traditional scholarship boxes or industry, you have to have certain criteria to meet and be awarded these scholarships. Is this going to be something similar? Like, is that power is going to be in the people that are donating, is what you're saying?
100%. And so when you create a scholarship, your recipient requirements are completely up to you, whether that be their age, race, certain area of study, nationality, like anything you can think of as far as like a metric about who they are, you can require it. Even things up to, if you want to have an additional video or an essay, like you can have a ton of material in there and get as specific as you want. We do nudge them towards keeping it simple so that our one-click apply system does work for students. And so that's kind of the catch. But yeah, complete customization over what students you want to receive it. The more narrow you are, the short list becomes a little bit shorter too. So it's a really cool way, and it's a lot of, kind of data management on that side and privacy management, but, still exciting because donors feel much more connected to their causes and know that the students are getting it. Another, we'll have to share this and get it up on our site, but we do have some really moving stories from our Web 2.0 platform. Students receiving scholarships that are life-changing for them, that maybe enabled them to go to school and they weren't able to before, took that debt off so they can pursue other things in their life. But it's kind of a heartwarming and marketing machine at the same time. So that's our other draw for donors.
Now, I know that you said previously that you're fortunate enough to pay off, your student debt and things like that from when you went into university. Was there like a moment that you had, within your education, things like that was like gravitated you to this type of project?
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if it was my own personal financing or if it was just being around so many people that were going through the same thing and the culture around it. But the standout thing to me, so my sister is just wrapping up her MD program, and I believe that she's going to be graduating with around $200,000 in debt, or maybe more. And so you can see how that's right. Just basically, a 50-pound weight you're dragging with you everywhere, and to see how that's held up someone so brilliant. And that applies to a lot of these other folks, too, that I graduated with. Or maybe those people, again, the predatory nature. When I get to my end of my degree and I look back and I was like, what the hell was I doing at 18, signing on to a loan for $65,000, $70,000 at the time? Why are they giving me this loan in the first place? And two, I had zero education about it. And so I said, here's an opportunity to do this better, reduce the amount of debt that students are taking on, and eventually, since we do have the platform, provide some education and really help people think diligently about the debt they're taking on and why.
So the education is geared towards not just scholarships. It's geared towards, hey, if you need to take a student loan, here's some education about what a student loan is.
Yeah, so that actually exists on our site today, and we're continuing to build out those courses and build out some of that learning material just because, again, we're for the students. More money in more students' hands is the goal, and better informed and educated students is a good part of that as well. So it exists today. We're continuing to build out on that, and student loans are definitely something we've looked at providing as a service. While right now, again, we're focused in on academic charitable giving and scholarships, loans will still be existent. I don't think that we're ever going to go away from those in any time soon, within the next 10 years. And so how do we do that? There's a lot of really innovative things happening in DeFi around loans, particularly the Alchemy style. I know they just had their V2 launch. Essentially, these Genius or self-repaying loans. And so how do you bring that convenience to student loans to take some of that pressure off them, to keep track of that, et cetera, et cetera? That's on the roadmap. I think from a regulatory standpoint, much more difficult to overcome. But, hopefully one day we get there.
Yeah, I would.
That would be amazing. Let me take a loan out and it will just pay itself back. Like I couldn't.
Yeah, Alchemy, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the project, but it's worth a deep dive at some point. It's really unique, and we'll see where it gets applied. I think there's a project applying it to even mortgages now. I don't know if they're live yet, but it's definitely worth getting acquainted with.
Yeah. We're looking at that one. So basically, if you're a donor, for the most part, you can almost have, like, in a sense, your own little, like, boardroom with, like, all the pictures of them up, and, like, you're kind of playing The Bachelor in a sense, because you're going to pick, who gets the rose kind of thing, in a sense, right? In your own little world. So that's kind of neat.
Totally, and, the fun part about that is, as a donor, you get that short list of students that fit the criteria, and you get the follow-up. So one of the requirements we have for students that receive our scholarships is to send a thank you video. And so that's a really unique part to give back to the donors, feel better connected to their students. The other thing, a donor advised fund can be essentially, it doesn't have to be just one person leading it. So maybe there's a family that wants to make the decision, et cetera, et cetera. We do have the governance mechanisms in place to facilitate that as well. The donor advised funds on chain connected to DeFi, super powerful. I don't think it's going to be just limited to academic charitable giving, but that's where we exist today, and that's where that's our beachhead for it. But we definitely see that expanding into a lot of other things, all sorts of charitable giving, and kind of nonprofits could benefit from it. But we're starting in this niche because we have a Web 2.0 platform, we know it, I think we can execute on it.
Nice.
So what you're saying is the goal is to expand this beyond just scholarships for education, which is amazing. To just have that already on, hey, this is one of the back end.
Yeah, you think about all the different nonprofits, particularly here in the U.S., that serve so many different purposes. There are a few projects in DeFi that help, them accept crypto. One's called Endowment, ENDAOMENT, but they don't have the power to, connect it to yield. And so we think that DAF infrastructure has a ton of utility. So once this is up and live, we'll see what does that mean to scale it, what's the back end look like, but it's definitely on the roadmap. We'd hate to stop with just this niche, even though it is a $330 billion niche, but we'll keep going.
Just a little bit.
It's just a small piece of
it's really interesting. So right now, that $330 billion is the total of all the academic, basically all the endowments that hold the money. And I believe they pay out roughly $8 billion in scholarships and student financing each year. And then there's another, I think, $2 or $3 billion in private giving. So it's not a small problem. We definitely, if you're not a student, don't think of it every day, but there's a lot of money, a lot of students, and a lot of people involved, and that's why we're super excited about it.
Well, like I was saying earlier, this is big business. I think one of the hurdles you guys will probably end up coming into is, this gets popular, right? And you're all of a sudden taking business away from, the big banks. You're taking business away from government because the government, in most cases, insures student debt. So I see that this is a very positive thing. I love this utility going forward into the future. But I'm sure you're aware of it. There will be challenges that will pose themselves, especially in the current environment we are in the United States with regulatory issues that are coming up now currently.
No, it's something we're definitely are aware of, and it's such a gray area. Thankfully, we do have a little bit different of a regulatory roadmap since we do have an existing platform and we're bringing tokenized utility to it. The regulatory roadmap or kind of, way is a little bit easier. That being said, who knows? That could change. Yeah. Right now it's regulated in so many different ways. Just getting done with taxes this year, it was hopefully it all went well. We'll find out. But just because, under regulatory scope, crypto could be a property, it could be a currency, it could be commodity, it all depends. And so, you do your best and we'll see what kind of concreteness comes from it. But honestly, I don't have a ton of faith of them having, concrete, easy to follow lines anytime soon.
True.
Well, no, we live none of us are financial advisors, right? Do your own taxes, do your own research, all that stuff. But you basically the way the United States works is you do your taxes, we'll tell you if you're wrong, but you owe us money at some point. We don't know how much that is, but just tell us what you think you owe, and we'll tell you if you're right.
Yeah, it makes no sense. And, like I said, kind of off air, we just got back from Barcelona, and there was the Avalanche summit there, and meeting people from all over the globe. It's interesting being in the minority, being an American there. But that was one of the major critiques. It's tax season there. What do you think about this or that? And I'm like, I know I paid a lot, and I know that what I'm getting in return is not a lot. So that's basically all I can say for it. I just do my time and have bigger things to focus on. Hopefully we see change, but it's frustrating.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Fun stuff.
It's fun. So tell us a little bit about the trip then.
Yeah, so it was, Avalanche Summit 2022. Basically, all the projects building on Avalanche were there in some way, shape, or form, had representation, whether that be the well-established ones like Trader Joe, like Dexlot, Pangolin, these ones that have been around and do a ton of volume, and, the smaller projects like us that are getting there. 5 days or so, ton of networking opportunities to, pitch our project. The most VC money at an event I've ever seen. So I don't know if that's, a good sign for Avalanche or maybe just good sign for Web3, but really great. Had a lot of really good keynote speakers about, leveraging Avalanche to its fullest, whether that be their subnets, whether that be, obviously one of the lower gas, tools in the ecosystem and more. The biggest thing walking away from there that I was honestly oblivious to is the significance of GameFi and, some of that world. It's something that I didn't pay a ton of attention to, but like always, the video game industry providing a ton of innovation. It was something that I was just oblivious to because they all look like an NFT shill, but there's way more to them.
Yeah.
And so, shout out to some of those big projects there. Worth checking out. So DeFi Kingdoms, they just launched their subnet recently. Really great team, been supportive for us and kind of taking that first leap into what a subnet means. And then, some of these other games. So keep an eye on GameFi. It was something that I was not aware of that I want to pay much more attention to.
It's crazy how vast this space is, right? Like we just don't. There are projects beyond projects, things popping up. Do you have now, because you already have a project running and kind of talking about this, and now we're launching this new decentralized project. People are going to be investing into it in some way, shape, or form. Do you feel that there is I don't want to say threat, but some type of concern for the government saying you're an IPO, or you did, some type of something along those lines?
I'm definitely not the right person to talk legal to on our team. That being said, very confident in the people that are. So we've been working with a lawyer since day one on a lot of this, a well-known lawyer in the space, been around since 2016-17. Have all the proper agreements set up for it, so I believe that we're good. Again, we can't take down the government, but we've done everything within their purview that we can right now. So I'm actually, one piece regulatory-wise I'm super confident in, more than some of these other projects.
Good.
Nice. Well, that kind of vocalizes then, right? Like the team. You guys have built this team. You have the attorney that you're extremely confident in, your partners, other, VCs with the project itself. How did that, it seems like it's a perfect storm that came to build this, right? Like all these pieces aligned. How does
honestly,
like
I'm not 100% sure, and it was, my last job, in my opinion, and I got a lot of hell for this from some friends and family, why are you jumping into Web3 and crypto, of all things? You were in this, a desirable job, why'd you make the jump? And I don't know, honestly, a lot of it's just following your gut, doing the right thing, and I had confidence in this team. So the timing, I don't know how it all shook out. It's just, the way things work sometimes. And a good example of this is, before Barcelona, I was seeing a friend in Switzerland and was there for a week, and just by happenstance, my flight from Switzerland to Spain, sat down next to a gentleman from Olympus DAO, got in a really good conversation with him, and that's going to be another huge asset for our project as things progress there. But so I don't know how the timing works out, why these things happen, just happy that they are. So I don't know. It's just keeping your eyes open and being open to these weird partnerships that might not make sense at first, but maybe that's the best way to put it, is the Web3 talenting community, the camaraderie. I think that's it more than anything. It's not timing, it's just the energy and the people.
Yeah, it seems, obviously there are some people that are, this is mine and I'm doing me, but then the majority of the community is like, hey, we're all going to make it. And that's a mantra, right? Like you go on to crypto Twitter, and it's like, we're going to make it.
No, it's an ethos I love. It's something that, we always try to echo as well. But, we're all going to make it, not just because the market says so, because we're the builders, we're the doers, and, it's on our shoulders. I think more than anything, it's almost taking responsibility and saying, hey, if our project fails, it's on me. It's not on anyone else. There's a different level of ownership with some of it, which is really inspiring.
There's pride in that too, right? This is my project. I'm building this from the ground up, and we are doing something that is completely different than anything you've
That's been the most exciting part, because a lot of the projects you hear are NFTs are not something that I enjoy or can necessarily speak on, but a lot of them don't have that immediate utility. Kind of follow the hype, or it's it's another Uniswap fork, and it's but this was something people would start getting to talking to them, and they're like, you are the only ones here doing that. So that is kind of a fun and exciting part. And honestly, if anything, the other part that's exciting for us is it brings some validity to not only our project and Avalanche, but crypto as a whole, to say, hey, this isn't just people getting rich and rejiggering the financial system. It's actually providing real world utility and meaningful kind of outcomes. So we're excited about what it means. Again, not just our project, but the space as a whole, to say this is something good that's serving people coming out of the.
And the other thing too, to piggyback off that, is you guys put the rainbow to the dark cloud of crypto that everyone says you're money laundering and you're killing people, and you know what I mean. So this is actually a good project that is helping people. So it's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, as we wind down, we have a few questions that we always typically ask all of our guests.
All right, so three
so Scott's going to dive
questions
into that.
What is the one main thing that you have on your bucket list? For personal,
From a personal standpoint?
It could be professional.
So my big endeavor, other than kind of crypto and Web3 right now, is kind of real estate. And so what I want to do is I'm getting married in August, so obviously that's on the bucket list, but it's already planned. But I'm a country boy at heart, grew up in a town of 600, graduated with 40, and I want to go back to those roots and see what that looks like. So have some sort of farm, build a little real estate portfolio, and have Web3 as the main door, and real estate and farming stuff on the other side. So that's the other fun. The fun side is being the country boy.
Those
crypto,
are complete.
Another fun story.
You're on both sides of the map there. That's good. Would you ever travel to space if you had the opportunity?
Absolutely.
What about a one-way trip to Mars?
Maybe 2 years ago, but now that I have a beautiful fiance that I get to marry in August, you have to ask her.
Good answer.
She'd probably say no. It's interesting, though, because I watched Interstellar on the plane ride home from Spain, and I don't know, it got me thinking. Wild. A trip.
Such a great movie.
Yeah.
Were you able to finish?
I was a lucky winner of a 9.5 hour flight back. So, I definitely got through that and a few others, and it took me on a ride. So, yeah, I don't know if I would volunteer to be that guy, but, I'd definitely take the trip up to the moon with Jeff Bezos if he ever sends a ticket my way.
All right. Here's the last question. Would you ever consider having a pen pal with somebody in jail?
Yeah. Absolutely. For sure. So, interesting enough, one of my favorite, in college, I was part of a program called F5. So on your keyboard, that's, refresh. And so what that did is help people coming out of prison re-immerse themselves back in society and make that transition easy so that you can, stop those reoccurrence, reoffending. And so, definitely would do something like that. And, how desolate something that can be. It's not a ton of effort on my side. So maybe I should. Put
there you
my
go.
money
Now time to sign up for the pen pal list.
Send some letters. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can create a project that's peer-to-peer.
I think they have that now, right? The Ethereum messenger, where you can send messages to different addresses. Something like that. We'll have to do that.
Oh, well, I know you can do that on like Doge and Bitcoin, but I didn't know that was the thing.
It's one of our founders shot a message to Vitalik and got a response back on that, so that was kind of fun.
Wow. Well, we greatly appreciate that you came on. This project sounds amazing. The roadmap itself, looking over the white paper, it checks all the boxes for the most part. If you could, just tell us, where can we find you? If you have any other things that you want to just give us the lowdown on or anything like that.
Anyone looking for our project right now, if you're a student or a donor and want to engage in what we talked about today, hop over to scholarful.com. And then if you want to learn more about our Web3 project, we're at scholar, SCH0LAR.io. Learn more there. That's also our Twitter handle. If you want to find me on Twitter, My name is Tedz Zipoy, Tedz.JPG. I don't do a whole lot exciting there, but connect with me there or on LinkedIn. Basically, there's about 15 people on Earth with my last name, so if you type it in, you'll likely find most of my socials. And happy to have a conversation with just about anyone about these topics or others, so feel free to connect.
All right, well, on that note, Amigos out.
This has been the Amigos PC. Make sure to like, subscribe, and review us on all your podcasting platforms. And visit us at AmigosPC.net. Get our entire library of content and Amigos merch. Till next time, adios.